Things are heating up in Sacramento. A lot of horse trading going back and forth for support amongst Democrats of who's going to get in Congress if they just support the redistricting plan. We have a story about LA Councilman Curren Price, who is charged with corruption up and down all over the state of California. And finally, San Francisco finally put their foot down and said no more political opinions in classrooms. We're going to get to that and plenty more on tonight's episode of the California Underground Podcast, starting right now. What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning into another episode of the California Underground Podcast, the most trusted podcast for all things California politics. I am your host, Phil. We have a lot to get to tonight. Things are really heating up in Sacramento regarding the redistricting plan. Lots of videos that we're going to have to cover. A lot of more information than I think we were planning on discussing tonight, but we'll try and get to everything. As well as an LA Councilman, Curren Price, is being charged with corruption. We're going to look into his past and how much corruption has been going on in the Los Angeles City Council. Spoiler, it's a lot. And San Francisco finally said no more political opinions in the classroom. Before we get to all that, I want to make sure you like, share, subscribe, and review. And I also want to make sure I welcome back to the show, Camille. What's going on?
I would like to thank the Academy. Hi, it's good to be back. I took a summer break.
Took a little bit of a sabbatical. Good to see you again. For those of you who don't remember, Camille is the co-host of the California Underground Podcast. So we were doing sort of a different format. She's back. We got a lot to talk about. 2026 is going to be very busy. And the legislature is already getting super busy. Little housekeeping. Before we get started, for those who are tuning in, we were doing the news hits sort of in the show, and then that we were clipping. So what's going to happen now, if you're a fan of those news hits, those 10, 13, 15-minute videos, still going to be doing those. We're going to be doing those throughout the week, so it'll be more relevant, more pertinent as things are coming up. So don't worry, those videos are still going to be coming out. This will be the platform, I guess you could say, for more in-depth discussion where we're going to have guests. In fact, we have guests already coming up next week and the following week. I guess, could we spoil and tease who we're going to be having on next week?
Certainly.
Keely Cavello, who was on before, of America on One. She's going to be talking about the Potter Valley Dam issue. That's going to be going on next week. And then the following week, we're going to have former Congressman Mike Garcia is going to be on talking about redistricting, because he was a victim of redistricting back in 2020. So guests will be lining up. There's going to be a lot of people coming onto the show. So that's sort of how the breakdown is going to be. Live show will be big discussions, in-depth discussions, guests, stuff like that. And then we'll be doing the news hits on YouTube and stuff like that. Welcome to everybody who's here in the chat as well. Camille, welcome back. How was your break? Are you happy to be back on the show?
It was a good break, yes. And I am happy to be back. I did, I was here in the comments, but it was a good break. I enjoy being on the show, but it was good to have a break and spend some time with my family and deal with some stuff going on, just life, life. How are you?
Good. I mean, summertime and making our way through, and we got a lot of political stuff to talk about. This first topic, I think, is probably going to be the biggest topic that we're going to get to tonight, because this is the redistricting that has been happening every single week. I feel like I'm in like Groundhog Day, where I just keep talking about this every single week, but there's just like new news every single day and like every single week. I want to hop into a video real quick from KCRA, and we'll get into some other things about the maps and some other videos that came out of the legislature today. So we'll hop right into that video right now.
lawmakers return to the state capitol, where they'll spend the next 4 days debating controversial new congressional district maps and whether they should be presented to voters in a special election. And the effort is in response to Texas's redistricting push, where lawmakers there are trying to send 5 more Republicans to the U.S. House of Representatives.
Now, on Friday, the California Assembly released a proposed map of the new congressional districts. Here's a look what the current next to the proposed maps. This afternoon, lawmakers in the state Senate and Assembly will roll out the specific bills they'll vote on to move forward with the redistricting effort. That includes measures to declare the special election, the funding needed for it, and the specific ballot question that could be presented to voters. The ballot measure will require 2/3 of approval from all state lawmakers this week to send it to voters this fall. Well, lawmakers have until Friday to get the plan approved for a special election, and you can scan the QR code right there on your screen to take a closer look at how your district could be affected. Meantime, KCRA3 political correspondent Ashley Zavala has learned that if this happens, at least 3 Democratic state lawmakers could try to secure their seats in Congress. She will be covering this all day and update us on air and online.
Well, all right. I want to get to that story in a little bit, but it does turn out like there's going to be political favors. Ashley Zavala, who is just absolutely amazing, has reported on that. And I was like, why am I not shocked that they're doing political horse trading? So what I have up on the screen is a more blown up version of the new proposed congressional districts. These are the maps that they officially released, and the current districts. Now, I know you had taken a look at them as well, Camille. Some things I want to point out. So this one up here is the one that sticks out to me. This is Kevin Kiley's district. So this is Kevin Kiley's old district up here. In the, I'm trying to.
What color?
I'm trying to show. I know. I'm realizing I'm doing it with my mouse and I can't show what it is. So in the current one in the top right, like where the bend is, that's Kevin Kiley's. Right, kind of on the border of, I guess, Reno. That's where that is. And then if you look at, go over to the new, he said it now looks like an elephant because there's a little trunk that comes down and actually picks up more Democrats. So crazy how they're like, well, we have to protect democracy and Texas from gerrymandering. So we're going to create these odd animal-shaped districts like this elephant one to get rid of Kevin Kiley. And you had said one close to you is actually gerrymandered, and you're a little confused about where your new district would be, right?
Correct. It looks like I'd be morphed into a different district, which is blue, and I'm currently in a red district.
And it looks like that's how it's going to be up and down the state. It's a lot of these are, I remember they're trying to get rid of 5 congressional Republican seats. Again, in the name of democracy, they're trying to get rid of people's representatives and people's voices by getting rid of your duly elected representatives. I'm not sure. I still don't understand the logic behind all of this, but this is really what they put up.
Here's what I ask you. So,
okay.
No, you just said you don't understand. I don't understand. I know Trump asked Texas to do something, and from what I understand of it, I don't feel that it's right either regarding Texas, but 2 wrongs don't make a right. I don't think it's right of California to react this way. I feel like Texas needs to fight Texas, not California fighting Texas. We have 52 congressional districts in California, and 9 of them are held by Republicans. We have crumbs. We have crumbs, and they're like taking our crumbs. The crumbs are too much. So let Texas fight Texas, or California can go help fight Texas, whatever. But don't make California, don't react with California, because that does hurt some of us.
Yeah, it is hypocritical that they are, again, gerrymandering the hell out of California to get back at Trump and Texas Republicans when it's not our fault. Like, whatever Texas is doing is not the fault of Californians. So punishing people in California for something that Texas is doing, all because you hate Trump, doesn't really seem fair. And it doesn't seem like doesn't seem in the vein of democracy. Like they're saying, we have to save democracy by destroying democracy and gerrymandering the hell out of our own state. I want to go back to, so I did have another article. There is actually something I want to bring up really quickly. It's from the OC Register. Let me pull this up real quick. So I didn't know about this as well. So you want to talk about how Gavin Newsom said this is all about transparency. This is from the OC Register, actually not behind a paywall, so I was lucky enough. In California's capital, the defenders of democracy oppose transparency. For example, the state legislature is supposedly defending democracy against Texas. They are simultaneously pushing a bill that would reduce transparency for local tax and bond measures when they appear on the ballot. An informed electorate is vital to democracy, and often the ballot label is the only thing a voter reads before making their decision. That's why the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association supported Assembly Bill 809 in 2015 and Assembly Bill 195 in 2017. They were simple measures that added one sentence to the ballot label, a required disclosure of the rate of a tax increase, its duration, and the amount of revenue to be raised. They're now trying to pass AB 699. This is all part of this week. So redistricting is causing all this chaos right now in the legislature. And this is, again, why you have to pay attention. I'm wearing my Local Elections Matter t-shirt, which you can go get at californiaunderground.live. They're going to shove these other bills through with this redistricting measure. And basically what AB 699 says is, we're not going to tell you what the tax rate is or how much revenue is going to be raised or how long it's going to be for. We're going to send you to this other place. So Stefani, who was the assemblywoman who did it, she said, quote, requiring that financial measures be explained to a voter in a 75-word ballot label can be too restrictive and can lead to confusion and at times can be misleading to voters. So her argument, again, in the interest of transparency, is it could be too confusing with voters to tell you how much your taxes are going to be raised and for how long. So we're going to take that information and we're going to put it in a wholly separate place that you now have to go and find that information away from the ballot. And I know, and I'm not trying to talk down to people, I know there's not a lot of people, well, there's a good amount of people. I don't think a lot of people are like you and I who sit down and like pick apart these ballot measures and actually read through a lot of it. So taking that information and putting it somewhere else means they're never going to find that information. They're never going to see that information because it's going to be like, okay, well, go to this county voter guide. It's like, well, I'm not going to go do that. Whatever you tell me, it sounds great. The ballot measure is to support free puppies and ice cream and, children in public schools and stuff like that. You have any thoughts on her taking away this tax language?
Yeah, which you're probably going to get to it because the author actually says exactly what I was thinking, where they're like, why not up the 75-word limit then if author a bill on that, instead of removing the tax information from the ballot. And I also, though, don't like how she proposes this, like people are stupid. Voters are not stupid. Our assembly members, our senators, they're not more intelligent than the rest of us. We've just elected them for whatever reason. We've decided to place our trust in them, or the rest of us don't want that job, and so we're like, sure, you do it. Well, I'll vote for you. You go ahead and you do that. But it's not because we're idiots and don't know how to read things and don't know how, and I feel like she was kind of saying that, like voters don't even get this. And so let's just do away with it. And I feel like that was a little condescending.
Yeah, it kind of was like, well, voters are too stupid to figure this out anyway. So ergo, I'm just going to take it away from you anyway.
And I'm not looking for a problem. Like, I'm really not sitting here looking at a bill going, oh, this was authored by a Democrat, therefore I need to find a reason to, like, most of the time I'm like, oh, I don't like this bill, but I'm not going to get offended over it or whatever. But I just felt like the language here of the author saying this about voters was condescending.
I agree. It goes on to say that she admit as much further down in her committee statement, quote, reducing tax and bond measures to be summarized in 75 words has led to lower passage rates and jurisdictions decide not to go to the ballot at all. I mean, that sounds like a win for me. But it sounds like for her, she's mad that they have to work harder and be more upfront about how much taxes they're going to raise. But moral of the story is they are promoting this whole defenders of democracy and transparency. And we're going to get to a couple videos in a second. And they're now trying to ram through more bills that actually reduce transparency and take the voices away or information away from voters and make it easier to raise taxes. Because if there's one thing California and the legislature loves to do, it's raise taxes. They've never met a problem where they don't raise taxes. All right. You were sending me some videos from X that were coming out of the legislature. Speaking of transparency, these were some great videos about what has been happening, and they're asking who drew the maps. So let's watch a couple of these. This is from Alexandra Macedo. She had a question as to, let's make sure this is all on. Great.
I hope that works.
Yeah, I think I figured it out now. So, all right. This is Alexandra Macedo asking who drew the maps.
Letting our voters see the maps and make the ultimate decision.
Madam Majority Leader, I understand. I've heard all that. Who drew the maps? It's a very simple question. Names, preferably.
The Assembly.
The Assembly did it.
Okay, I'm in the Assembly and I did not draw these maps.
Well, you're not the leadership.
No, and I'm aware of that. But the same way that in this bill it says that the Assembly Elections Committee, not Chair Pellerin, not Assemblymember Salache, not Assemblymember Bennett, I am a part of that group. So by association, I have been lumped in, Mr. Bennett. So I'm asking, who drew these maps?
The
groups.
legislature drew the maps.
Who specifically in the legislature?
The legislature drew the maps.
This is transparency that we don't get to know who drew the
The
maps.
legislature drew the maps.
Again, over 76% of
That's not what I'm asking.
But you are, though. This is where the maps are coming
I have
from.
heard
is from the
your response to that. I am asking
the
you
Citizen
specific
Redistricting
question
Commission,
that you
which is
are
bipartisan.
bipartisan.
Let's have one person speak at a time, please.
And my question has not been answered. The information you've given, I've already heard. I've got it here.
The question has been answered. You just don't like the answer.
You said the legislature. I am the legislature. I am part of the legislature. Is that correct, Madam Chair? Because I am not a Democrat.
Can I
I'm
try
not part of the
Assemblymember
legislature.
Bennett,
Can I just try and answer
Is my
in
time
good
paused?
faith? Yeah, go ahead, pause the time. But when we say the legislature, all kinds of things happen in the legislature. We're not all involved in every one, but they're all controlled by the legislative leadership. The legislative leadership wrote these maps. Combination, we have a leader right here.
So,
and she's part of the leadership.
So
the
you wrote
leadership
the maps,
team,
or helped write the maps.
The team
leadership
did.
team.
I didn't personally write the maps.
So then there you go. She's in leadership, and she just said she didn't write the maps.
There's others that are in
she was part of the leadership team.
Okay,
That doesn't
can we
mean
bring the
everybody on
debate
team
back
did
to
it.
the chair,
Who
please?
is the team?
Okay.
You know who the team is.
I think we've answered the
The
question.
question
So much for transparency, right? Who drew the maps? I think that should be the hashtag that everyone in all over social media, and if you're in the chat, start spamming like who drew the maps. It's a great question.
Go. Everyone share this with hashtag who drew the maps. Let's make a trend.
Yeah, go on X or whatever and just start drawing or writing out who drew the maps. What I picked up from, I don't know if you picked up from this as well, is how condescending they are to Assemblywoman Machado, in the fact that, yes, Republicans are a super minority in the legislature. Basically, they are forced to put 2 on each committee or something. And I'm sure if they didn't have to put people on committee, they wouldn't put anybody on committee. But the fact that they're like, sit down, shut up, don't ask questions. Like, the legislature drew the map. You don't understand it. You're not smart enough to understand it. It's like there's this condescending attitude from Democrats right now of you are too dumb to understand this. And I mean, AB 699 we just talked about is also voters are too dumb to understand this. So just let us figure it out. We figured it out. You guys just vote on it. What were your thoughts on the video?
I was actually offended watching it. And again, I'm not going around looking to be offended. Not everything offends me. I can read something and disagree with it and move on. But watching that, like you said, it was such an extreme condescending situation. And it was more a bully situation. And we've heard when we've had so many of the guests on, assembly members and senators from California, we've had as guests on the show in previous years, and they've talked to us about how there is a bully situation that goes on in the halls. And that was one of them. It was very like the leadership is not the answer. She says, I want names. And they're just like, you're not privy to all the info. We do things without you, which should tell all of us, sorry, I keep hitting my microphone, I apologize. All of us voters should not be okay with that either. For them to say, we do these things, that not everyone is privy to, not everyone is a part of. Okay, I understand that they have different committees and not everyone is a part of that. I get that. I understand the breakdown of how this works. But they should be working as a team. I thought that was kind of the point, is that we elect all of them to work as a team to now try to do what's best for California. And again, they have the supermajority and they're just shutting her down. And it's kind of like, you know what, you just sit down, shut up, close your mouth. We don't want to hear from you. The adults will handle this.
Yeah.
I don't know how she controlled her. She was so self-controlled. I would be fuming. I would be pacing the room and screaming at people. Like, don't vote for me for assembly. I won't run. I seriously would. I would have anger issues in there. Like,
that's one reason to vote for you, is because it'd be entertaining to watch you just go into these committees and start ruffling feathers.
I'm not ready. But shake some shoulders, I mean, they're so rude, condescending, bully attitude, and like, this doesn't concern you. That, yeah, I agree. I guess we need some fighters. And no, I'm not saying anything physical should happen.
So that was one video, and I don't think they got their. There's more. I don't think they got their talking points ready for today, because there were a lot of questions and they weren't ready for it. This is State Senate Elections Committee Chair Sabrina Cervantes, and this is from Ashley Zavala, who was busy today.
So the Rules Committee was responsible of putting the maps onto our public website, the Committee on Elections. And so that has now been posted since Friday and then adjusted on Monday per AB 604.
Okay, so did this committee meet then to draw the lines? I mean, we're just trying to ascertain who exactly is responsible for drawing these maps at this point.
So the criteria has remained the same from the CRC. 76% of the districts remain the same, and that is what Californians will see. There are many folks, stakeholders, who've had an input on the map drawing process, but ultimately this is up to the decision of California voters, whereas the CRC, which we respect, we want to make sure that there's a nationwide Citizens Redistricting Commission, but the reality is we are in an emergency, and this is our emergency response. We're giving Californians over 2.5 months to review these maps thoroughly and make a decision on whether or not we move forward with this constitutional amendment.
But is the State Senate Elections Committee, we drew these maps? Like, you're ready to say that too?
The Senate Rules Committee put these maps, the census tracks, onto the website.
So legislators drew the maps? Can we say that to our viewers?
Again, this was from CRC's criteria.
But who was looking over CRC's criteria to create the maps? Was it Paul Mitchell of Paul Mitchell Strategies?
It was input.
Paul Mitchell, for those who have not been following, Paul Mitchell is who's in charge of redrawing these maps. He's also married to Jody Hicks, who's the head of Planned Parenthood Action, which is a political action committee. So a lot of questions about who Paul Mitchell is.
Again,
so you're refusing to say who drew the maps, which is the question.
It was testimony that was given to the CRC.
By
and
whom?
Again, we're remaining consistent, making sure we're keeping communities of interest together, which was important to voters.
Well, and
we're making sure that we are respecting the Citizens Redistricting Commission. Therefore, we see that only 76% of the voters remain in the district that they will be looking at when they review these maps. And that is what we're doing different from Texas. Texas is literally making the decision for voters. They are choosing their voters as opposed to letting voters choose who their representatives are. California does it differently. And we would hope that Texas would follow our lead, and they still have an opportunity to pull back and not move forward with this rigging of the election. This is our response. We are not going to stand idle by while Trump's in office rigging the elections and changing the rules in the middle of the game. Again, this is about putting the power back into the hands of California voters, and I believe that on November 4th, they will stand tall and say no more. No more to Trump's election rigging, no more to mass agents ripping families apart, no more to detaining veterans, no more to these snap cuts, no more to critical dollars being taken away from California. $5 to $10 billion is at risk here. And that is vital services for so many vulnerable Californians, including health care.
Madam Chair, but Madam Chair, California voters deserve to know who drew these maps. That's what we are asking. Don't they deserve to know who drew these maps?
Again, this is the most transparent process in the nation.
That video, this is all infuriating me. I'm like, I shouldn't have high blood pressure at such a late time at night because I'm going to get like, I'm not going to be able to go to sleep tonight. There's so much wrong with that video that like, all right, first off, she has no idea what the heck she's talking about. And she obviously doesn't want to answer who drew the maps. And again, that should be the trending hashtag all over X right now is who drew the maps. And when she got really pressed and she was like backed into a corner and she had no more gobbledygook to spew, what did she fall back on? Well, we got to stop Trump. That's what this is about. We have to stop Trump and this and that and these reasons. Okay, but like what does that have to do with Californians who are wondering why you're taking away the Independent Citizens Commission? And their argument, again, makes no sense because you're saying, well, California lets its citizens decide because we have an Independent Citizens Commission, and that's how it should be done across the country, except in this case. In this case, we're taking away the Independent Citizens Commission, and instead, we're going to decide all in favor of stopping Trump for one reason or another. None of that made sense to me at all, and it just shows they did not have their talking points ready, and Sabrina Cervantes looks absolutely flabbergasted and lost by this. What do you think, Dee? Were you as upset watching this video and like frustrated with her lack of answer?
Yes. She answers with who drew the maps is, again, we're the most transparent legislator, whatever. No, we're not. But, we're going to let the voters decide. The voters decided in 2008 and 2010. And why, I don't know why we're going back on this. And I was kind of thinking about this today. I feel like they're trying to give us voter fatigue. In 2021, we had the huge special election in an attempt to recall Gavin Newsom. And then we, of course, had a regular California election 2022. We voted to him in office again. And then 2024 was, of course, the national election, presidential election. And already now we're a little over halfway through 2025 and we're talking about the 2026 election, which Newsom is termed out. So it's a pretty big election and we're going to be voting for Congress and Assembly and state senators. Like it's going to be a pretty big election and I'm already tired. Like, are you already tired?
Yeah.
Of course I'm going to show them, but I feel like they're just, because now they're forcing this special election on us. And so it's like, okay, 24, 25, 26. And I feel like so many people are going to just be burnt out come 2026. We're going to get through Christmas and New Year's, and then we're going to be like, I don't want to do this again. And I don't blame people for not wanting to do this again. It's exhausting.
Yeah. Well, or I'll counterpoint with this. I think this could be such a colossal political misstep by California Democrats. Like, they're already like all over the place. They're not handling this well at all. This could backfire next year in the sense of like people will remember, and believe me, there will be campaign ads up and down all over California about what California Democrats tried to do this past year. And if it fails, even more reason that people will get really angry and upset about this. So it could be that it may galvanize people to get involved next year and go like, this is too much. Like, this is out of control. Like, we got to do something. So maybe it galvanizes people. Maybe people show up next year. But I could see people getting like election fatigue because we haven't even seen like the slate of propositions yet. And like, especially in a gubernatorial election year, like propositions are going to be all over the place. There's going to be no less than like, I don't know, 20 propositions that we're going to have to go over and break down, but it's going to be a lot. And I think if this is their game plan already, is they thought if we just tell people to sit down and shut up and just listen to us, that's not going over so well. All right. One more video that I want to show. This is Gal Pelrian. Is that how you say her name? She was assembly elections chair, and this is what she said.
Who exactly is responsible for the maps? Who do we tell California voters drew these?
Well, so the maps have been posted on our website since 8 o'clock yesterday. The lines are very clear where people can go on and observe and see what we're doing. There are adjustments. Many counties and many districts are not getting touched at all. So,
Madam Chair, I'm sorry. My question is, who is responsible for the maps specifically? Who do we let California voters know are responsible for the maps that they are being presented with?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a collaboration.
There were several people involved.
Who specifically?
I'm sorry again. I got to stop the video. The fact that she looked back at whoever this guy is with the glasses, I don't know who that guy is. I think he's probably a legislator. I'm a nerd. I don't even know every legislator, but the fact that she looked back at him as like, please bail me out here and tell me, because I don't know the answer to this. Please bail me out here. Just shows you how little they know and how much they prepared for this question. And it's really infuriating.
I don't have the full list right here with me, but we could certainly get that to you. But these maps are transparent. They're there for voters to see.
The names of the people, the organizations. I mean, Governor Gavin Newsom promised that no special interests or this would be transparent. This would not be done in a back room. So we're trying to ascertain in this very short amount of time that you have to deliberate this, who exactly are the maps responsible for?
There's a lot happening very quickly, and the folks that were drawing the maps went back to the Independent Redistricting Commission's testimony and what they heard during their time when they were deliberating this, and they themselves ran out of time to do the work that they needed to do. And so we're basing these on the Voting Rights Act, and we're looking at really bringing the voters into this process, and that's why we're going to an election on November 4th, because at the end of the day, the voter's voice is what matters.
We're asking because voters back in 2008 and 2010 took the power away from politicians to draw maps because they did not like that it was an incumbent protection plan. So we just need to know. I mean, that's why we're asking.
These are definitely unusual times. We are no longer governing in a democracy. We're governing in an authoritarian government. We are seeing things that we care so deeply about in California. We have education, food for children.
There we go again. When we're backed into a corner and we don't know what to say, and I'm floundering for a response because I have 10 news microphones in my face. And kudos to Ashley Zavala and everybody else there, because there's other reporters there who are pressing all of these legislators who drew the maps. They all fall back on the same thing. It's Trump. We gotta stop Trump. It's an authoritarian government. Sound the alarms. We don't have time for transparency. We got to do this. Geez. Any thoughts?
I know you want to move on from this subject because we've been on it for a while, but what was she saying? They ran out of time for something and they couldn't complete. Do you know? It doesn't matter. We don't have to go back to it.
I wasn't really paying. I was more upset about her authoritarian, what she said about we're living in an authoritarian world. But there is a line that I want to get to. You were going to say something?
Well, I was going to say, in addition to let's make who made the maps, we really should be contacting not necessarily Republicans, but the Republicans are fighting this, but we should be contacting our state legislators and demanding to know who drew the maps. We want names.
Yeah. That's easily done. Maybe that's a campaign we should get going.
Said that she could get this list to her at a later time. So this list apparently exists. We want the list. If you are the most transparent state in the United States, then you will be willing to hand over that list in the name of transparency.
Yep.
LGBT community, they are getting decimated by this administration. This is an all-out assault on California's democracy and the rights and values. So we have to move quickly, but we are bringing the voters on to this process. We're letting them know the maps have been posted on the website. We have this election on November 4th, and at the end of the day, the voters will decide what is important to them and whether they want to adjust these maps to give California the voice it needs in Congress.
But can any of you answer whether or not were state lawmakers involved in drawing the maps? Any state lawmakers at all?
Not to my knowledge.
But who adjusted them last night at 8 p.m.?
It was my understanding that they were by 8 a.m. They were out there.
No, there
was a collaboration, but we can get to the people that actually did that work.
So then why does the legislation say the detailed maps are prepared by the Assembly and State Senate Elections Committees?
So the reality is that it was a collaboration, and we can get those specifics, but I think what's most important is the maps are out there for people to see, to evaluate, to make a judgment on. The lines are the lines.
Madam Chair, but
so we are that
when you consume something, don't you want to know who makes it? When you are presented with something, don't you want to know where it's coming from? Don't voters deserve
to know? When I go to a restaurant, I don't need to meet the chef. I just enjoy the food.
Wow.
We watched 3 different videos of legislators who, in the name of transparency and democracy, had literally no answer as to who drew the maps. Simple question. Who drew the maps? And they kind of just bloviated and threw out word salad, and that was it. And they go into these dumb lines about restaurants and chefs, and you don't need to know about this, and it's about Trump and authoritarianism. So it's flabbergasting. I want to say hi to the people in the chat who are saying hi. Los Angeles, what's going on? Northern California, Oceanside, California, and Fullerton, what's going on? Thanks everyone for tuning in. If you have questions or comments, throw them in the chat. We love hearing questions and comments. That's why we do a live show, so that people can interact with the show live. Let us know your thoughts. Do they send out a general elections book for the propositions? Is this for the 2026? No, this is for this special election. They're going to have to send out a book soon about what's going on with this special election. They always have to know. But for general elections, they do put out a book. And Camille and I, the nerds we are, we wait for it eagerly every year. And we get all excited. And we're like, our books are here. And then we can start going over propositions on the show.
Do you think AI drew the maps?
Maybe
I'm
AI drew the
that's
maps.
why they don't want to answer. AI drew the maps, and they're kind of anti-AI up there, or they want to put all sorts of restrictions on AI, and so maybe they don't want to admit that AI drew the maps.
Maybe they're like, we told AI to draw it and it figured it out for us. But I'm going to go with it's probably a lobbyist like Paul Mitchell, who's married to Jody Hicks. I think it's lobbyists. The fact that these maps were ready and raring to go the minute Gavin Newsom said, oh, we're going to do this, and came out with the idea, they were like, oh, we're ready with maps in a couple days. That was 3 weeks ago, and they weren't ready to release the maps. Again, this is all transparency, and this is all part of their argument for transparency and fighting back against the authoritarian government is depriving people of their voices here in California. This isn't the end of it. I know there's going to be more. So any final thoughts on this frustrating day out of Sacramento and how transparent they were? They're just so transparent over there in Sacramento. Any thoughts?
4 Republican legislators did file an emergency lawsuit today to put a stop to this.
They did.
No update on that, but that has been filed.
Yeah. I think it was the Supreme Court, right? California Supreme Court. They said they went to this California Supreme Court and said,
hey. It was SCOTUS. I thought they went above, but
I thought it was I thought it was the California Supreme Court. Maybe it was the actual Supreme Court. Who knows? I just saw Supreme Court. I didn't know if they filed it with the.
Someone wants to let us know.
Yeah, if someone in the chat, I thought it was California Supreme Court.
Other topics to get to, I know, and so we're not going to keep harping on this, but there was an emergency lawsuit filed today.
Yeah,
California Supreme Court of the United States, one of them.
Somebody said they know exactly who drew the map. Not getting an answer says everything. Someone from X chimed in. Only SF has daily registration data, which I'm keeping track of, by the way. I'm also a nerd. Oh, welcome, nerd. Nice. Welcome, fellow political nerd. That's nerdy. When you're keeping track of data, that's nerdy. Yeah,
it is.
But I don't know anybody else who keeps track of political of registration data. At least not personally, right, Camille?
No, nobody has ever sent you an Excel spreadsheet
of registration. All right.
Never done that.
Next topic I want to get to involving transparency and corruption. Final point on that. The reason that I say corruption all up and down the state, we really didn't touch upon it because of all these different videos. There was horse trading going on in Sacramento where basically they said to certain Democrats, if you support redistricting, we'll draw the map or you'll get a district that's more favorable for you to run in Congress. So now there's like 5 California legislators who are already eyeing a congressional run. So McGuire is one of them who, like, his district would now be lean blue. So he wants to jump in for Congress. So basically they're horse trading. Like, you support this, and then we're going to make sure you get into Congress, which to me reeks of incredible corruption and horse trading, which leads us perfectly into our next topic about LA City Councilman Curren Price is possibly going to jail for corruption down in Los Angeles. Let's watch that video real quick.
Tonight, an LA City leader facing new criminal charges. The DA's office tacking on 2 more corruption charges against Curren Price.
KCAL News assignment editor Mike Rogers is at the desk. And Mike, tonight you're hearing from the councilman's legal team.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Pat and Rudabay, tonight we're hearing from his legal team who is saying basically this is just a desperate attempt by the DA's office to build a weak case. We'll show you a video of when Curren Price was in court recently, or when this all started. Remember, he was previously charged in 2023. Now, the DA's office alleges through subpoenas they have uncovered some more evidence accusing him of public corruption. This all has to do with money that he allegedly voted to approve that then the DA's office alleges went to his wife's business. There's 2 different situations here, one through LA Metro and one through another account involving the housing authority in the city of Los Angeles that Curren Price, according to the DA's office, approved that money that then was given awards to his wife's company. That's the public corruption charge. The DA's office says his staff flagged those items before the vote, meaning that according to the DA's office, he was aware that there was a conflict of interest, which is prohibited by law. Tonight, Curren Price's attorneys are speaking out. We'll show you part of their statement. It says, quote, more than 2 years later, the DA's amended complaint is nothing more than an attempt to pile on to a weak case. They have gone back as much as 6 years, combing through thousands and thousands of votes to find a couple more allegedly conflicted votes. Statement goes on to say, hoping that the public will overlook the fact that there is no evidence whatsoever that Councilmember Price was aware of the alleged conflicts when he voted for the agenda items. That statement directly contradicts what the DA's office is saying tonight, because the DA's office accuses Curren Price of knowing because his staff, according to the DA's office, flagged it before he made those votes. Guys?
All right, thanks for that update, Mike.
All right, so he appeared in court. You sent me an update as of yesterday. He pleads not guilty to new corruption charges. This is a quote from the district attorney, Nathan Hawkman. Now I forgot.
Hawkman.
We spent so much time trying to figure out his name. Hawkman, right? Like Hawkman. Quote, embezzling public funds and awarding contracts for your own financial gain is the antithesis of public service. Self-dealing and pay-to-play politics will not be tolerated in Los Angeles County. And they go on to talk about this. They've gone back 6 years. On Thursday, Price filed a demur. A demur in criminal court, the same as civil court, is basically where you file a motion saying, hey, you don't have any leg to stand on here, so we're going to dismiss this at the early stage. You can do it in criminal and in civil. A motion to have a complaint dismissed or trimmed down noting the amended complaint, quote, was filed following grand jury proceedings initiated earlier this year that did not result in an indictment. Superior Court Judge Craig Rickman denied the motion, finding that there was enough evidence for the case to move forward. So womp womp on that. It looks like you're not going to be able to get out that easily. If convicted of all charges, Price faces a maximum sentence of 9 years in state prison and 2 years in county jail. So that's, sorry. I missed that. So anyway, that is, sorry, I'm getting used to the new hot buttons here. So that's Curren Price giving $800,000 to his wife's company, and they're saying that's not a conflict of interest. Any thoughts that you read into this story about Curren Price? He seems like he's a guy who's like been in a lot of hot water, and he's very questionable and shady in his dealings as councilman. What about your thoughts?
Yeah, I didn't have time to go that far back because he's been in the state assembly, I believe the state senate, Inglewood City Council. He's been in politics for quite a while, and I wanted to see if there were any complaints against him on the FBBC website. And again, I just didn't have time to get to that, but I probably will because this is interesting. There's not everybody in politics is bad. If we can disagree with their politics, but that doesn't make them a bad person. But this guy seems like he's in politics to benefit himself. That's a lot of money. I'm sorry. A lot of money going into basically his wife's pockets. And there was even something about where he paid his wife's medical bill back in 2015. Somehow he got money to do that. But then it wasn't even his wife. He was still married to somebody else legally. It was a bizarre situation. And when I had sent you this story originally, I'm like, this just seems to be the case for LA. Everyone in their politics is, they fired or let that one woman go, Letitia Adams.
Oh, Leticia Adams.
Yeah. With the Los Angeles, you know how to say it now.
LAHSA,
the Los Angeles homelessness. Yeah. They had let her go because it turns out she was signing things that were benefiting the nonprofit that was paying her husband. And so it was like there was, money going back into her pocket. And can Los Angeles just get it together? I mean, remember Karen Bass went to Sacramento and asked for $2 billion to cover a $1 billion deficit. And we're just finding all these little, $1 million here and $1 million there, and that adds up eventually. But this little $1 million here and little $1 million there are going to benefit people, as in people who are doing shady business, not the people of Los Angeles. So it's just Los Angeles, just get it together.
Yeah, I don't know of any other city, at least not in California, at least maybe Chicago across the country, that probably has this much corruption. But Los Angeles seems to have a ton of corruption. You're right. The Leticia Lavis, now I'm saying her name wrong. Leticia Va Adams. She was found not in violation of ethical rules for signing off on $2 million by accident. Remember, it was by accident. She said she didn't mean to sign 3 separate checks that went to her husband's nonprofit totaling $2 million. And they said, there's nothing wrong with that. She didn't really mean to. So that's $2 million there. This guy got away, or so far is trying to get away with giving $800,000 to his wife's company. It was $33,000 in city funds from 2013 to 2017 to pay for Richardson's medical benefits, claiming she was his wife while he was in fact married to another woman. I don't know how that right there doesn't land you in jail, because it's like, okay, you're lying to the city to collect city funds and taxpayer funds. You're not even married. I think you should have been in jail back in 2013 and 2017. It's just finally this is all like catching up to him. LA is a mess. It is really like there is so much going on. The specific deal from 2019 to 2020 allegedly paid Del Richardson and associates approximately $609,000 in consulting fees, while Price had voted to support a $35 million federal grant and a $250 million state grant application for the agency. And the LA Metro also paid the consulting firm approximately $200,000, $220,000. Price then brought forth a motion to the council to award LA Metro $30 million. So look at that. LA Metro gave his wife $220,000, and then he brought a motion to give LA Metro $30 million. So you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. And then also he took advantage of his position in city government to award city lease agreements and more than $2 million in federal COVID-19 grants to a nonprofit that was a tenant of an organization for which Price was the chief executive officer at the time.
Oh gosh.
And this guy should, I mean, this guy just continually votes to give his money's consulting firm more and more money. I don't want to hope I don't want to hope bad things happen to people, but like at some point someone's got to be accountable. Like you just keep wasting taxpayer dollars and giving it to your wife. It's like, Huckman has to like make an example of Curren Price and be like, nope, not under my watch. You're not getting away with this stuff anymore. But in terms of, I asked the chat, how much corruption do you think is going on in Los Angeles altogether? I did ask Grok to give me a little list, and it spit out this information. And this is just recently. So this isn't like in total, like in the past 100 years or something like that. This is literally like just the past like several years. Jose Huzar, former council member convicted in 2023 of racketeering and tax evasion for accepting $1.5 million in bribes from developers. The feds caught up to him and he was sentenced to 13 years in 2024. Mitchell Englander, former council member, sentenced to 14 months in 2021 for obstructing a corruption probe after accepting $15,000 in cash and gifts. Mark Ridley Thomas, convicted in 2023 of bribery and fraud for funneling county contracts to USC in exchange for favors for his son. He did not face jail time. He was just suspended from the council. We talked about Curren Price. John Lee faces ethics allegations for accepting improper developer gifts, but no criminal charges as of 2024. And then they said the racist audio leak in 2022. This was Nuri Martinez, Kevin De Leon, and Gil Cedillo caught making racist remarks and discussing redistricting manipulation. So they did not go to jail, but they had to. Martinez resigned. De Leon and Cedillo stayed until Cedillo lost re-election. It's a lot. I mean, that is an abnormal amount of corruption to be happening in a city in the past 2 years? This goes back to 2023. This is not ancient history. This is 2 years ago. This much corruption has happened. I'm sure if you ask Grok, go back 10 years for corruption, there would be even more stories of LA corruption. They're just taking wild advantage of taxpayers. And your point is perfect that you have Kevin Bass who's going up to Sacramento and groveling in front of Sacramento. Give us $2 billion to get us out of this budget deficit. Maybe look at your city. Maybe look at what's going on in your city council and be like, all these millions of dollars here, there, a little bit here, a little bit there. It does add up over time if people are continually stealing from taxpayers. What are your thoughts?
It's maddening because it hurts the people of Los Angeles who are paying these absurd amount of taxes that are just going to some politician's pocket, or their not wife's medical bills. It's disturbing and it's not fair, because what happens with, in this case, well, not this case, but with their bad budgeting, Karen Bass goes up to Sacramento. She asks for $2 billion. It's not like California just has $2 billion and they're like, sure, here you go. That has to be paid back or paid for somehow, some way, which it's going to be the taxpayers to do so. They're going to raise the taxes yet again to, ensure that this gets paid back. And so these people that already paid the taxes, they were conned, they were bamboozled by people that they elected to represent them. And now it's like, oh, just kidding. We have to raise your taxes again because we mismanage your money and we don't get you anything for it. And also sorry to those of you who lost your homes in the Palisades fires. We're not doing anything for you either.
Someone in the comments said nothing has been done for the fire victims. They're giving fines to homeowners that lost their homes at fire, and nothing has been done for them. Tradwife and X says, sounds like San Francisco, honestly. San Francisco, I don't know if they have that much corruption, but there's a lot of racketeering going on. Let's see, there's another comment. The entire homeless housing project has been tossed up. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the fact that there's all these developers who are making tons of money off homelessness and the homeless industrial complex, it makes sense. It's a huge grift. There's millions of dollars, especially in federal money, coming through. And if there's federal money coming through, that means the feds and like Bill O'Saley and the Department of Justice can get involved. Chris, you're very welcome for shining the light on these issues. So we'll keep an eye on Curren Price and how his case progresses and see what happens to him and whether he's actually held accountable. But there's one final story I did want to get to because I thought it was interesting. And if there's any parents who are watching or in the chat, I think you'll get you'll like this story. This is a good story. Let me pull this up real quick. And there's actually it's actually good news. It's good news for people in San Francisco. So this is from the San Francisco Chronicle, SF School District to Teachers. Your political opinions don't belong in the classroom. Days before the start of classes, San Francisco school leaders reminded teachers that they can't express political opinions during the school day, including what they say, where, or what they put on their walls. District officials encouraged principals to reinforce those restrictions as educators and staff participated in back-to-school training this week. The guidance follows a divisive battle last year over accusations of political activism among educators in city schools, particularly in ethnic studies courses. Controversial activities include teachers encouraging students to write letters to Mamiai, I don't know how to say that, Abdul-Jabbar, a former Black Panther sentenced to death in 1981 for murdering a Philadelphia police officer. What an odd thing to have students do. Or asking him to participate in anti-Israel protests. In other cases, teachers hung pro-Palestinian posters in classrooms or described Israel as colonizers committing genocide. And then it goes on to talk about, I think there's some union pushback, and we'll talk about the unions in a second. But you sent me this video like right before the show, and I want to watch a little bit of it. We won't watch the full thing, but I want to give you an idea. This was Bay Area, right? Like this was a Bay Area teacher that
was it? No, Moreno Valley. Where's Moreno Valley?
Okay.
I think that's
anybody in that area, Moreno Valley, if you want to let us know where that is. But this is sort of an example of teachers going a little too far with their political ideologies in the classroom.
Tonight, a high school history teacher in California now on leave for this post-election lecture to students.
This is not a game. Can you end up in a concentration camp in your lifetime? Yes. Can you end up with no human rights? Yes. Will it happen to you? Most likely not. Which is a good thing. But has Donald Trump quoted Hitler? Yes.
Clips of the profanity-laced rant recorded during an AP World History class at Valley View High School and posted to social media by a conservative commentator last week, racking up millions of views.
Why would someone who in Wisconsin would vote for Joe Biden, a geriatric old Republican racist who's running as a Democrat, why would they all of a sudden not vote for Kamala Harris, a young person who has no bad record and who has effective policy for the future? Jariah. She has a vagina, I was about to use a different word. She has a vagina and uterus, and what else? She has melanin. She's mixed race. I know a lot of Latino men on this campus, adults and students, that love Donald Trump. And he's called their mothers rapists. He's called their fathers rapists. He's called them criminals. He called them the poison in the blood of our country. They want to vote for him, and they did vote for him.
The Moreno Valley Unified School District, which has not publicly identified the teacher, telling NBC, quote, "We were recently made aware of an incident at one of our high schools in which a staff member's discussion about the election results turned unprofessional. We do not condone the behavior that occurred, and an immediate investigation has been launched. We reached out to the teacher and his union about the incident, but have not heard back. Yesterday, dozens of students walking out in support of the teacher.
I've never left or ditched a class before, so me just not having a school excused reason to leave class was really scary, but I decided to take that risk for Mr. Perez because he's done so much for me. I can't, there's like a whole list I couldn't even say.
Students Damien and Jaylene are not in that AP history class, but they're part of a mental health club that teacher supervises. And they say they felt compelled to speak out.
Even if you're not in his class,
he still helps.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like he's everyone knows Mr. Prez as just a generally positive and joyful person.
They both signed a student-led online petition asking to reinstate the teacher.
Maybe he could have been taught in a different tone of voice, but besides that, he's an amazing teacher.
But one parent told our NBC station in Los Angeles that this kind of language in a classroom,
God, they want to be white so bad. They never will be. Hate that.
Crosses a line.
I don't use that kind of language in my household. So I set myself a standard, and as an educator, I set you as a higher standard. So no, it was not appropriate at all.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news.
All right. Well, that's an example of a teacher going a little too far with the political. I mean, a lot of that was just almost incoherent rambling. The reason why people didn't vote for Kamala was because she was a woman and because she was mixed race. And he thought that she had great policies for the future. I'd love to hear which one he thinks that was a great policy for that. Was it the price controls that she promised? That's how she was going to get inflation under control, was federal price controls. Was that something, one of her great policies? But regardless, that's just an example of what's going on in some public schools and what they're doing here in California. I think this is a win for the Bay Area that this is being taken out of the classroom. I don't think people want to send their kid to public schools and then have them come back and be indoctrinated with someone's personal political points of view. And, you know, even if the person agrees with you, I still think the majority of parents in California wouldn't want someone pushing political views one way or the other. They just want their kid to like do well in school. You homeschool your kids, so you don't have to worry about this. And they were saved from this. So, but I know you have opinions on this in public school teachers.
Always. What I actually find very interesting about this is that, you know, we say and they say, we all hear, so goes California, so goes the nation. And it does feel like so goes San Francisco education, so goes California. And they're actually the ones pushing back on this so-called woke agenda of, you know, your woke agenda doesn't belong in the classroom. Teach your students how to think, not what to think. And that really is, you know, at least for me, my hope with educating my own children is to instill a level of learning in them, and that they will learn how to critically think, and that once they graduate from high school, they will always want to continue to learn, you know. And you were on the phone with me and you heard my daughter ask if she could go to the library, and you were kind of impressed she wanted to go to the library. She starts college next week, and she's so excited. She is so excited for all her classes. She's got a full schedule, and I'm so excited that she's excited because I do feel like I did something right. Sorry, this isn't about me, but homeschool. Like I do feel like she's excited to continue learning, to, you know, to go off and do her thing. But I just, students need to go to school and learn how to critically think, not be taught this is how we all non-group, you know, group think and stuff. And if parents want to send their kids to a private religious school or a private school that has a, you know, a set agenda and they want to pay for that, that's totally fine. But when it comes to public school, teach politics, not tell you what politics to follow. Teach different religions, but don't tell you what religions to follow. Absolutely. You know, I'm a Christian and I believe in creation, and I taught my kids that. I taught them about evolution as well. And, you know, they need to be a part of the world and be educated and understand what people do believe and the different beliefs that are out there, of course. But I do love that San Francisco is actually standing up and saying, hey, remember, we're not allowing this, and principals, you need to enforce this. So.
Agreed. People are agreeing with you in the chat. Can you imagine what our country would be like if Kamala was president? I don't want to think about a world where Kamala was president. We've done enough cringe moments of Kamala. If you don't understand why this is a huge win on a different level, it's teachers unions in California are really, really powerful, especially the California Teachers Association. From January to October of 2024, the California Teachers Association political expenditures included over $12 million in contributions across various filings. Notably, its issues PAC donated $830 directly to the Democratic Party, while the Association for Better Citizenship gave $287 to Democrats compared to $21,000 to Republicans. Every candidate endorsed by the CTA in this period was a Democrat. So there you go. Especially for this to happen in public schools in San Francisco is a big cultural point. And somebody had pointed out that I think San Francisco is turning a point. Less so. I think Los Angeles is now becoming the out of the three big cities. I always consider San Diego, LA, and San Francisco. I guess I could include Sacramento, but I think of the three big coastal cities everyone talks about. I think LA is now falling behind in a far third, and San Francisco has turned a corner. Tourism is up. The economy is kind of turning around in San Francisco. And this is a big deal. This was what his trad wife on X said. It's gotten more conservative. Asian parents are signing up for the GOP, and they're going to throw out District 4 supervisor. Who was that? A Winky? Was that who it was? Or who was the lady in that video that we just fell in love with, who was Miss MAGA, in Chinatown? She walked around with her MAGA hat and stuff like that.
We gotta go find her.
We need to go find Winky and get her onto the show because she was awesome.
All right. I want to go have tea with her.
Yeah, I want to go hang out with Winky in Chinatown. But yeah, it is turning a corner in San Francisco. So your point is perfect in that if this is happening in San Francisco where they're going, all right, enough with the politics, just get back to actually teaching, that could be a huge turning point for California, and especially culturally for slowing that tide of uber progressivism in schools of we're just going to go back to actually teaching. So we're a little bit over, but I knew we were probably going to go a little bit over. We had a lot to cover, and there was a lot to talk about. Any final thoughts, or anybody in the chat have any final thoughts or questions? Let us know. Chat was awesome tonight. Thank you everyone for tuning in and being so engaged. I know there's a lot of people who are just watching and not necessarily chatting, but everyone who is showing up, whether you are on X or Twitch or YouTube, all of you for showing up. This is really awesome. Any final thoughts on your first show back? On your first show back from the sabbatical?
Thanks for having me back. I got through it. I wasn't sure if I knew how to be on camera again. No, I don't think I have final thoughts.
Yeah. Okay. We were joking, and you were like, "Well, I'm going to be so nervous and just forget. What do I do with my hands? What do I do on camera again?" But good to have you back. Just all of a sudden you're doing that. Someone said, "Sorry I was late." Phil, thank you. Oh, you're welcome, man. You can just watch back the video. It goes up on YouTube, so you can just catch back up on it later. Winky, you can find her off Jackson Street.
On your commute to work.
Yeah. Thank you for hosting this live meet. This is a live show. You're all welcome. That's the point of this platform. Someone said, thank you for hosting this live. They said it's a meeting. I think it's a platform for all of us to come together and talk about California politics and feel like I'm not alone. I'm not alone in California. And there's other people who think like me. And if there's other people who think like me, maybe there's hope for change in this beautiful state. Like I said, the next couple weeks are going to be guest shows. We got lucky with hooking up with a bunch of guests. Keely Cavello tomorrow or next week, and somebody else from American First Policy Institute, the rural policy head of the rural policy department, I guess you would call it. He's going to be on as well. So it's going to be a jam-packed show talking about Potter Valley Dam and what's going on up there. I've been posting videos on Instagram. It's really sad what they're doing to farmers. up there. And then the following week, former Congressman Mike Garcia is going to be joining us to talk more about redistricting. Make sure you tune into us live on Tuesdays, as well as make sure you subscribe. Check out for the news hits that are going to be going out throughout the week if you like the 10 or 13 minute stories. But if you're already here at this point, I think you already like the long form. So with that, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, review, all of that stuff. And the best thing you can do that is 100% free to support the show is share it with somebody. Share it with them and tell them, hey, join me at 8 p.m. on YouTube and watch California Underground Podcast. And we'll see you on the next one. Later.